U.S. President Joe Biden spoke to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over the situation in Rafah and efforts to increase transfer of aid into the Gaza Strip. The telephonic conversation between the two leaders was the first since 15th of February. Earlier, Israeli Prime Minister addressed members of American Israel Public Affairs Committee. The Israeli Prime Minister said that criticism from Washington over the conduct of the war on Hamas is deliberately false. He further elaborated on what attaining victory in the ongoing war means for Israel.
How do we define victory? We define it as the destruction of Hamas's military and governing capability. We define it also as the return of the hostages, which we're working right now. That's why I was a bit late, because we have to instruct our delegation that is going to Doha. And we define it also as preventing the return Gaza from becoming a threat to Israel at any time in the future.
The telephonic conversation between the two leaders comes days after U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer had called for fresh elections in Israel. Schumer, a long-time supporter of Israel and the highest-ranking Jewish elected official, also claimed that Benjamin Netanyahu is an obstacle to peace. U.S. President praised Schumer's speech and affirmed that it echoes America's sentiments. Netanyahu called Schumer's speech as totally inappropriate. U.S. supports a new round of talks aimed at securing Israeli hostages in a Gaza ceasefire deal. However, Washington has expressed concerns about a planned Israeli assault on the southern Gaza city of Rafah, where about 1.4 million displaced Palestinians are currently sheltering. Susan Teherani is our correspondent in the United States of America. She's now joining us live from New York. Good to see you, Susan. We understand that U.S. President Joe Biden has already spoke to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Do we know what they discussed?
Well, we have a very short statement from the White House. It says President Biden spoke with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel to discuss the latest developments in Israel and Gaza, including the situation in Rafah and efforts to surge humanitarian assistance to Gaza. So very brief, but we will be hearing from the White House press secretary soon in about an hour's time. And I think we'll get more information about what the two leaders discussed. But this was the first phone call since February 15th when President Biden signaled that Prime Minister Netanyahu is doing more to hurt Israel than help it.
Susan, finally, very quickly, what are Americans saying about Chuck Schumer's statement?
I mean, it just depends on who you ask. But I think, obviously the majority of Americans, the Jewish American community, were absolutely shocked. There are some Democrats who are trying to distance themselves from Chuck Schumer's comments and not so much criticizing Israel, but going ahead and calling for fresh elections. And then, of course, you have those that are on the side of the Palestinians, and they're very happy that Chuck Schumer actually took this stance.
All right, I've been talking to our correspondent, Susan Teherani, live in New York. Thank you, Susan. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.